Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Smells Like. I'm Josh. So good to see you. This is my full review on Chanel Sycamore Eau De Parfum. So I have here the Eau De Parfum version. This is a fragrance that definitely has kind of a little bit of a history to it. So we'll have to talk a little bit about kind of the history of this fragrance. This is from Les Exclusifs de Chanel, the high-end exclusives line from Chanel. I have here a 75 ml bottle. They also make a 200 ml bottle. Packaging, it comes in this sort of carton on a little stand. You have Chanel. On the bottom, you have the name of the fragrance. All of the Les Exclusifs de Chanel come in similar packaging. And you have this white carton over the top with Chanel on the top and the black lines on the side with kind of this white paper and cardboard. Simple, understated, that's what you're gonna get from Chanel. But like I said, this is the Eau De Parfum, which is actually a reformulation. This version, the Eau De Parfum version, was created in 2016 by then longtime in-house perfumer for Chanel, Jacques Polge. Prior to the Eau De Parfum was an Eau de Toilette. When Les Exclusifs de Chanel was first created in 2008, they were all Eau de Toilettes. That 2008 iteration, the Eau de Toilette, was created by Jacques Polge with some help from Christopher Sheldrake, another sort of longtime collaborator with Chanel. So before that, then, we even had an older version all the way back in the 1930s. The first version of Sycamore was created by Ernest Beaux. Ernest Beaux was the first perfumer to work with Coco Chanel in creating Chanel No. 5. And then that first line of perfumes that included Cuir Bois d'Azil, and others, number 22. And apparently the first iteration was a very soft fragrance that had quite a bit of tobacco in it, some violet, and some soft aldehydes. So this modern Sycamore is kind of a reinterpretation of that earlier idea, kind of modernized. And the modern version here is very much meant to be a woodsy fragrance. Chanel wanted their version of a woodsy fragrance. It's based around vetiver and woods. I just want to read Chanel's description. I think they have a nice description on their website. It's as follows: a rich wood fragrance with a noble character, like the sycamore tree that inspired it, created by Chanel master perfumer Jacques Polge in 2008. At the heart of the scent, vetiver with an elegant sandalwood note and dashes of cypress, juniper, and pink pepper for an earthy, warm, and enveloping yet subtle presence. I think it's a pretty good description, especially with the main notes that they're mentioning. Again, just give you the note listing, official note listing from Chanel is vetiver, cypress, juniper, pink pepper, and then they also list smoke and burning woods, as well as the sandalwood that they had mentioned in the description. If you go on Fragrantica adds notes of aldehydes, tobacco, violet, and spices, but it's kind of unclear. I'm not sure if they're getting that tobacco from which version, and so that it all gets a little bit muddy as to what exactly the notes are and what exactly is in the perfume. But let me just talk a little bit about what I get from this perfume. I've only tried the current Eau De Parfum version. So if you want kind of a more of an overview than just the kind of the basic history that I just gave, then you may have to go elsewhere for that. But I'm just going to talk about what I get from this version, the Eau De Parfum. Let me just start by saying I absolutely love this fragrance. I got this bottle in December. I've already put a pretty major dent in it, and it's because I love the way that this smells. It's all based around this vetiver accord. I believe it's the Haitian variety of vetiver, which can be dark. It can sometimes take on smoky nuances as well as being grassy, earthy. There's a lot of earth in here. There is a little bit of that greenness and freshness. And that vetiver takes on some woodsy, like smoky woods properties. That mixed with the cypress and the sandalwood gives it this almost crackling, dry smoked woods kind of appeal to it. In the opening, you do get a blast of pink pepper, which has a lot of zing, a lot of sparkle to it. There also is so much light and sparkle in the beginning that I feel like there has to at least be some aldehydes of some kind that Chanel is so famous for, that aldehyde note that is so sparkling and bright. It doesn't have the same aldehyde feel as like number 5 or number 22, which is like the quintessential Chanel aldehyde fragrance, in my opinion, number 22, another from the exclusives of Chanel. But there is a little something like that. It's not again, not as much as in those, more pronounced aldehyde fragrances, but I feel like there probably are some of those Chanel aldehydes in here, working with the pink pepper and working with the juniper that's in here. Again, juniper is super zingy. It's one of the main ingredients used to make gin. It gives gin that kind of zingy, fresh, kind of interesting smell to it. As you start to get into really the heart of the fragrance, that kind of the zing and the sparkle, the almost fizzy thing that pink pepper gives, starts to really get into more of a smoky nuance, a lot of the woody sort of nuance. And there also is something that is slightly sweet. And I don't know if that's why maybe Fragrantica has added tobacco or the violet as possible notes here, because that may be what's giving a little bit of a sweet nuance. It almost has like a burnt sugar thing going on. Just almost goes that way, but not quite. Just slightly sweet, or maybe like a sweet tobacco. Again, I think violet flower can sometimes lend a soft sweetness. So kind of interesting to know what actually, went into making this, and, in terms of what the perfumer actually used. But probably we'll never know exactly the secret to what everything that is in here. Once you get into the dry down, it dries down to the vetiver and the woods. The smokiness really kind of goes away once you get into the far dry down, and it really is just this very nice woodsy dry down with the vetiver. Maybe a little bit of the kind of sparkly, spicy thing. I think that's probably why Fragrantica adds spices, because there are some nondescript kind of spicy, zingy things that stay with the fragrance. You have these woods with some spices, and it just gives kind of an interesting kind of dry wood spicy thing. And that's really where you end up with this fragrance. This is a masterpiece, and I would love to try the Eau de Toilette at some point. Depending who you ask and where you read, some people say that the Eau de Toilette is way better, that they kind of ruined it in the 2016 reformulation here, but I really can't imagine that it could be much better than this, because I just absolutely love this. Let's talk about pricing. The 75 ml bottle is $200 for this one, and then there's a much bigger 6.8 ounce 200 ml bottle for $350. The pricing then it's a luxury type of fragrance. This kind of goes above the normal designer range. This is a designer exclusive, and so you really are into that upper echelon of perfumery in terms of the quality. Of course, with that comes the upper echelon of the pricing. So a much more exclusive kind of fragrance. In terms of smell, you're not going to smell this on a lot of other people, but to get that exclusivity, to get that quality, you are paying a premium. For me, it's worth it. This is a fragrance of one of a very small handful of fragrances at that price point that I've tried and loved and actually think is worth full retail. You're not going to find this discounted. You're always going to be paying retail. Chanel really keeps a tight grip on their distribution and all that stuff. One other thing I want to talk about is the comparison you hear a lot anytime you talk about Chanel Sycamore, whether it's the Eau de Toilette or the Eau De Parfum, you are going to hear comparisons to these fragrances from Lalique's Encre Noir, and then the more recent Encre Noir à l'Extrême. So Encre Noir gets that comparison to Sycamore because it's based around this vetiver and it's dark and it's woodsy. I think there probably is like a cypress wood accord. That cypress wood and that vetiver in this is what I think makes people draw that comparison. I just want to make the comparison because for me, they aren't very close in terms of smell. Encre Noir, while it has a similar sort of root DNA to it in terms of being about this cypress wood and vetiver, is much darker. It's much stranger. It's much more synthetic and weirder. It's inky in the way that the vetiver is done, which I don't get much of that inky. I get more of the smoky and sometimes green vetiver, kind of earthy vetiver from this. Encre Noir is more inky and almost like plasticky, like, you know, like petroleum-based plastic or something like that, which is very strange, but I happen to really love. I love Encre Noir. It's an extremely affordable fragrance. It's in the same family, but that to me is really where the comparisons end. This isn't a clone of Sycamore. If you're wanting kind of like the poor man's Sycamore, I don't know that you're gonna really get to scratch that itch with Encre Noir. À l'Extrême also gets compared because it's a little bit heavier. It's a little bit, it's not quite as like plasticky and inky and dark as the original. And so I think some people see a little bit more going on in this, and they see kind of that there's a lot going on with the vetiver in this and other things, and think, okay, that maybe that's more like it. I actually think this is even further away from smelling like Sycamore than the original because this has incense. This has a vetiver, again, that almost is like a nuttier kind of vetiver. It has a little bit of that inky vetiver as well as kind of like more of like a nutty type of vetiver. It doesn't really have that smoky thing that I think is really the key to Sycamore here, is that smoky nuance that's going throughout that makes the wood seem smoky, that makes the vetiver, which I think is coming from that Haitian vetiver, the sandalwood, I really think sets Sycamore apart. But I did want to make that comparison with these. These are both excellent fragrances that I highly recommend. But for me, they don't have any of the bright, fresh, like fizzy or the light that is part of Sycamore. These are all sort of all dark, all darkness, especially the original is just all dark, no light to it, no brightness to it at all. Did want to make that comparison. So for me, this boils down to a fragrance that you can wear pretty much any time. I get decent performance from it. I mean, it lasts me the entire day, and it projects really well. I think that there's enough light and freshness in it. You could definitely easily wear this in spring. I think to me, that's the smokiness and some of the depth of it makes me think more of fall. I've been wearing it this winter because that's when I picked up my bottle, so it definitely fits winter time. It is a stronger type of fragrance. It does have quite a bit of darkness in it, so I feel like fall and winter are more the wheelhouse for this one, although I definitely will be wearing this in the spring. I like to wear this when I'm dressed up. If I'm wearing a suit, I absolutely, feel like the class, the elegance of this fragrance makes this a really good, like, luxury level signature scent even. For sort of the people that want sort of a luxe signature scent. This would be a great signature scent, I think, for the right kind of person. But I even like to wear this when I'm just wearing sweats on the weekend. That's something I have with my high-end fragrances. I like to wear them when I'm sitting around and relaxing, and so I tend to wear really, really expensive perfume when I'm wearing like sweatsuits when I'm hanging around the house a lot. That's just something that I do. So you could wear this with a sweatsuit. You could wear it, with a black tie. real soon. So that's my review. I know it's a long one, but I feel like there was a lot to talk about with this fragrance. Really a rich history here and a rich scent just in and of itself. So much to unpack. This is a scent that takes you on a journey and it changes and it is just so supremely interesting while at every stage of its development being just gorgeous. In the air, the sillage, smelling it around you, it just is such a treat of a fragrance from Chanel and one of my favorite fragrances of all time. And certainly one of my favorites from the House of Chanel. So do let me know in the comments if you've tried Sycamore, particularly folks that have tried the Eau de Toilette and the current Eau De Parfum. I'd love to know what the differences are there, or if anybody has tried the vintage, the original, that would be really interesting too. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments, or maybe you disagree, you think that these do smell more similar to Sycamore than I think. Let's talk about it in the comments. I always love to hear from you guys. And if you'd like to do this again sometime, do hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you right here at the Smells Like Fragrance channel for another video next time. Thanks so much for watching.